American Rescue Plan funds. This is a work session of the Mayor and Council. Month is August 2022. Roll call when you're ready.
Commissioner Donnie Carter.
Here.
Commissioner Nina Forsythe.
Here.
Commissioner Kevin Grove.
Here.
Commissioner Adam Ritchie.
Here.
And Mayor Robert Flanagan.
Here.
Thank you. Thanks for agreeing to do this special work session. As you know, we've been working off of this table here of projects and approving projects incrementally over the last year. I thought it would be good if staff had the opportunity to meet with you to talk about some things that have just come up in the last year in terms of funding. One of the big things that happened since we first found out about the ARPA funding that came out later, so you started planning, knowing that the funds could only be used for certain things, and then the revenue loss provisions came about, which meant that anything up to $10 million could be claimed as revenue loss, and you pretty much could spend that money on any normal government service. So that changed some projects that the city was able to do, and I'll open it up for things other than just water and sewer to items like street paving, street light retrofits or upgrades, replacing light bulbs and street lights, etc. But we've still, I think, staff have continued to operate under the direction that we're looking to make investments now that reduce future costs for the next 20 to 30 years that will help keep the rates, whether it's water, sewer, or taxes, affordable and help offset future increases. I mean, our sewer costs we know are going to increase just because everything else cost increase. Our water treatment processes, the raw chemicals that are used to do that, the prices are going up. So there's some costs that we can't insulate ourselves from, but in terms of making strategic investments in valves and pipe replacements and software upgrades, some things you've already approved, that is stuff that would need to have been done anyway, and this allows the city not to use reserves or take out loans to pay for those. The other thing is the ARPA funds is a huge influx of cash to the city, and proportionally the amount of ARPA funds to our general budget is huge, especially when you consider Allegheny County, his budget is a magnitude more than ours, yet they only got a few million more dollars than we did. So the impact to Frostburg is really substantial in terms of the ARPA funding. So in the regular budget process, trying to still place programmatic expenses in there and certain upgrades so we make sure that when this ARPA money is gone, that we're not left
with stuff that we still need to take care of.
Yeah. So, and
so strategic investment,
and just making sure it's sustainable. So, and then in the top of this ARPA money, Hayden's work with Columbia Gas has been a huge influx of money to do street paving. So there's a lot of money right now. Speaking specifically about utilities, we were on a pretty good path with our combined sewer overflows to complete those probably in the next 5 to 7 years. The consent order to separate expires in 2023, and with your approval, we have the 4 utilities involved have engaged Aqualaw to try and get which is a law firm specializing in this type of stuff. We've engaged with them and are working with MDE to try and get an extension on that consent order deadline. But at the same time, beginning around the time of the PACE meetings in January, we learned that because of some legislative changes as to what bay restoration funds can be spent on, that our CSO projects are not likely going to rank high enough to get grant funding like we have primarily for the past 19 years. We were getting some special grants for many years through MDE, and then the Bay Restoration Fund opened up, I think, in 2016, and that was really awesome. We were getting 87.5% grant funding for these projects. The surcharge was paying the city's match on these $2-3 million projects. Right now, we're working with MDE. They have us in the queue for some special EPA grants that are structured similarly, but it's a very small pot of money, like $1 million a year. So we think we're going to be able to knock out parts of Phase 10B with that,
Like
but
$1
not.
million for the whole state? Or
Yeah.
that's,
So with sewer, because we're less than 10,000 people served with sewer, we are eligible for loan forgiveness through their Water Quality State Revolving Loan Fund, where you get 50% of the funds, the loan forgiven. But that's a loan, and it needs to go through the bond council process that can cost somewhere, like, that alone's about $75,000 to do the bond issuance. So assuming that grant funds aren't available, and when trying to figure out how to fund these CSO separation projects, it's been recommended to us that the city would apply for like a jumbo project to complete the CSOs and then have incremental sub-projects under that, but that way you only go through the bond issuance once. However, what that means is that your CSO surcharge that you've been charging your customers with the thought that in 20 years we're going to be done and we can get rid of that surcharge, now that surcharge is going to need to continue for the next 30 years to pay debt, or potentially up to that long. More unknowns, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act is saying that there's millions, billions of dollars going into these types of projects. But what we're being told is that it's going into the state revolving loan funds, which means loan forgiveness, not grant, unless something changes. I don't know what that's going to look like. There's going to be more money, but whether that money is available in grant form or just the loan forgiveness. I feel like we might be able to make something work with the 10 projects that are in the works, with these EPA money and just like the relationship we have with the funding side at MDE. There's a few other areas that need separated. Do you want to talk about that briefly, Hayden?
Yeah, there's still some of the stuff by Mountain Ridge High School, so the Washington Street, McCullough, Grant, basically over to Nancy Grasnick. That area needs to be separated. There's Frost Avenue, which will be kind of a tricky one to deal with, polling the public as far as what they want to do in terms of tearing up the road versus the sidewalk. And then there's just a few pockets in and around town, like North Grant Street, that'll need to be done. But projects like, there's maybe 3 of those that are under $400,000, just ballpark. But we are, in terms of square miles of the city, we're within 84% of completion. That doesn't mean 84% separated, but in terms of just the footprint of the city, we're pretty close. So by the time we're done, all the Phase 10 stuff, which is by Mountain Ridge, we'll be close to 90. So.
And then Frost Avenue is a big project. More than $2 million, and then these other few small projects.
Do you think we should advocate for the loans to be turned into grants as a legislative priority at MML?
Or at least get more insight from MML. I sat in on a webinar with Senator Cardin, and I asked, like, how are these funds going to be available? And they said, through the drinking water and water quality state revolving loan funds. Okay. So we're getting, you know, MDE has all these divisions, and we get correspondence from MDE about our consent order, asking us like why we're not done yet, and then how we plan to use this infrastructure and investment job IIJ Act money.
Good job.
And I'm like, you tell us, the money's coming to you, you know, it's coming to MDE. So I think reaching out to MML to see if they have any understanding of what that funding will look like.
Mhm.
But yes, to advocate that it's in some, then is it like the federal restrictions coming through, or does the state have the discretion? I don't know.
Okay, yeah, it'd be good to know.
Do you want me to reach out to Bill George? I guess would probably be. I can do that. That's
Yeah.
a good idea.
There's so many unknowns right now to try to.
Yeah.
It is.
I don't know how we plan anything right now.
Mm.
It is. You know, the utility rate study, hopefully, you know, we engage with a utility rate consultant in the next month. But hopefully, like this on the CSO side, more information about the funding comes to light so that they can, as part of the planning process, it makes sense to do it right now, so. On water, there's been a lot of water projects prioritized with ARPA. The main reason for that being is that we serve more than 10,000 customers on the water side because of the county customers, which puts us into a less favorable ranking structure. And we also don't have a consent order or anything. So like we get the least favorable grant structure from MDE, and we only qualify for loan forgiveness, and the loan forgiveness is, last time I checked, was only 25%. So when you're paying or having to take out a 75% loan, you know, and you're able to do something with cash, like that makes it affordable.
Yeah, ARPA should go to that.
Again, in 5 to 7 years, the Piney Dam debt is going to be paid off on the water side. So with the utility rates, we're thinking, oh, you know, we can pass these savings on to our customers in some form. There's newer legislation or policy out from the EPA about the lead and copper rule revision. I think I've spoken to you a little bit about that in work session. There are supposed to be grants coming through IIJA to the water side of things to help pay for the inventory and the replacement of any lead lines. I'm not overly concerned about the expense of lead line replacement in the city because,
We don't have any.
yeah, but we still have to do this inventory. And because Hayden and Angel are so busy with all the ARPA projects, there's just no staffing to take on doing the inventory of every single service line connection on both sides of the tap.
Something that needs to be done physically.
Not necessarily. It can be mining as-built drawings. It can be done by determining the age of the subdivision. So like things built after galvanized pipe was outlawed is like, okay. Like,
Which is almost all of our projects. So.
and then like,
You just
but
need somebody to go through all that.
yes, it's a huge data mining exercise more than anything. And then on some of the, like the Frost Avenues that we haven't been on, we haven't disturbed, and you have to know the customer side as well as the city side. So like we haven't connected to a galvanized or lead pipe. If they've discovered it, it has to be replaced, has been our policy, but we don't have an inventory of that. So we're not overly concerned about the replacement cost, but this inventory cost is something. EPA still hasn't approved Maryland's Excel database to do this inventory in, yet it's supposed to be complete by October of 2024. I anticipate there will be an extension, but
34, 44.
and I mean it's, you know, like we understand the need for it, so it's things have just been really slow to roll out. So we're on the mailing list. When grants are available for that, we will be applying, but we don't know what that funding structure will be, and we don't have matching funds set aside for any sort of grant like that right now. So a cushion for that to some extent is needed. And all of that ties into this utility rate study. So yeah, there's just a lot of unknowns on water and sewer right now. So, any questions?
When are you gonna know these unknowns?
I know, I'm sorry, like, I guess like that's why Elaine and I and Lydia and Hayden are just like,
Turn your hair up.
like we don't know. We're concerned about what, especially on the CSO side,
Yeah,
how we're gonna pay for these.
those are huge projects.
So, I guess we'll just go through this list. There's some things that need to be taken off. There's some things we'd be seeking your approval for at the next council meeting so we could start moving forward with them, or at least get quotes on them. And other things that that's one more thing, that's an unknown at this point. The Child Care Center. We did a congressional earmark or community project request to both senators and our congressman. That project is included in all three of their lists, which is a really good thing, except it's a different amount of money on all three of their lists. So I didn't know what that meant. So talking to one of Congressman Trone's aides, he said the more of their list that it's on, when they go to, they will do a House budget and a Senate budget. So the two senators will have to come up with a number when they reconcile. And then the Senate budget and the House budget needs to be reconciled. He says nothing is guaranteed until the president signs that budget, which may not happen until March of next year. Congressman Trone's request was for $712,000, I believe, for this project. It's about $900,000 total. And that was the highest amount. Because it's on all three lists and not that many projects made it on all three lists, I'm pretty confident we're going to get a congressional earmark. We did not get CDBG funding yet. We got rejected for the CDBG funding because we don't have any funding because the president hasn't signed the budget yet, and so it's not guaranteed, and they couldn't say we're approved and then just have us sit and wait until March. However, they did indicate in a follow-up that they really liked the project and we could apply for special project funding, which is just kind of an eligible project but out of their cycle. So we will plan to do that, but nothing is guaranteed. So like, I'm not asking for an earmark for the Child Care Center, but leaving some unspent funds might be
Wise.
wise.
Do you have a recommendation for about how much?
250.
Probably.
Okay.
There's been a lot of,
But that 250 would be able to be covered by ARPA or not?
yeah,
Because that was,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
but we have to be careful because if you dedicated the ARPA funds now to CDBG, CDBG won't fund you.
Oh my gosh.
So,
So we just have to be cognizant that we keep that in our back pocket.
Okay.
okay.
Yeah.
You ready for that jello yet, Kevin?
Getting close.
All right. Do you want to lead us through these projects, Lydia?
Sure. Hayden knows more. I just know, like, pretty much started, not necessarily what has happened, but I don't have an exact number. We're approaching the 30,000 for COVID sick time. we recently updated that policy, so we're continuing to offer COVID time off. If you want a copy of that, we can provide that to you. Centennial Hill.
Yeah, that number, it's not 895, it's closer to the 822 number. They're on the right. Centennial Hill, it's approximately halfway done. We're just waiting on the pump station itself to arrive because the backup generator for that building is on back order. But that project is still moving along nicely, going to plan. The general sewer, general water, and then the general water treatment plant projects are all just general funds to knock out the little tic-tac projects that come up every day, like catch basins for the sewer projects, VFD replacements of the water treatment plant, or a busted water line for the water project. So those are all just general funds to cover general expenses. Qualified census tract, that's about you.
So the Child Care Center design is 90+% complete. I think BB&A is working on the bid documents right now. That cost wasn't originally included in the contract, so it's going to be, we haven't got the quote back, but a little bit more, a couple, maybe $1,000 more for the bid documents for that.
The radio red meter replacement, that project has gone really well. We actually ran out of meters. We were installing them so quickly. So we have ordered more, and they are, as soon as they arrive, sometime in the middle of October, that project will start back up and hopefully finish by midwinter, if things keep going as smooth as they have.
That'll put us at 100% or not?
It would put us at 100% radio red. That doesn't mean it would be over. We still have some radio red meters that are 20, 25 years old, and then we would look at starting to gradually replace those. Yeah, by middle of winter, we should hopefully be at 100% radio red, which is really nice.
And great work to your guys in the water department for taking on that extra work.
They've done well.
Yeah.
The disinfection tank repair, replacement water treatment plant, I don't know if Elizabeth sent out any of the
Not
pictures.
yet, sorry.
The old tank, they pulled the roof off on Monday. They pulled the old tank yesterday, and they installed the new tank yesterday afternoon. So the new tank is in. We're just finishing up some plumbing and cosmetic stuff now, and then that project will be done by the end of next week. So that project has been a long time coming.
Where's your new tank?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Is that what they're working on today when I was
Oh,
driving
wow.
past?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's big.
Yeah, 6,000 gallons. So it's 22 feet high by 8 feet wide. And then the Savage Well rehab, that one is kind of on the back burner. We have only made just kind of logistical progress with that project, but it's not, knock on wood, it's not a 911 type project. We're just making sure we go through all the proper paperwork and red tape so that we can get back to the area where the well is at, since it is behind a wetland.
You can just skip that.
Okay. Skip around housing. Piney Dam upgrades and repairs. That project has gone really well as well. Valve number 2 is the new valve out there. It is functioning properly. We've had it in for about 2.5, 3 months now, and we're happy with it. So now we will start shopping out valve number 3 to bid out that work. We'll use either an identical valve or one very similar to what we used for number 2. And then there's just a few projects at the dam that are less than $10,000 total for some different door seals and pneumatic upgrades to some of the valve actuating systems. But that project has gone really well. It's been good for us out there to get those valves upgraded and repaired. Water treatment plant system upgrade. I actually just got the quote back yesterday from Microtech Designs. We're looking at about $250,000 tentatively for that project, but that's one of the projects that I'll keep pushing for, because we've been bubblegum and duct taping the treatment plant together for a while now, and that will finally push us into the future and keep costs down for the water treatment plant for the next 20 years. So I'll be moving forward with Microtech for the design work, and as long as it's okay, for the design work and for getting that project laid out. So that'll be one that I'll have at the next work session to present on. Street paving. I don't know if you've been up in the Columbia Gas
Neighborhood.
Victoria Lane area, where the bomb went off, but that is moving and grooving. We should start seeing curb to curb new hot asphalt on Monday, and they're going to keep plugging along, finishing that neighborhood, and then once they're done there, they'll move on to Grandview, Victoria. From there, they'll bounce back to some of the other streets like Water, Broadway, Mechanic, Bowery, and just kind of bounce around the city.
So to clarify, the paving that's being done right now is not being funded by ARPA.
Correct.
So that'll be an item if we want to continue to have that $400,000 budget on or not.
I mean, at this point in time, that's already approved, so
Well, part
that can be used over.
and small parts of it probably will still be paid for by ARPA.
Well,
so.
we've added some things here and there too, so
Okay.
Yeah.
Bernard and, so that's outside of.
The Columbia Gas zone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Comprehensive plan.
That is something that's required by law every 10 years. We're behind, but LJ and Bethany are working on a RFP to put that out for bid. Just an estimated cost. In 2011, I think they spent like $90,000, but it was different then. So I'm hoping that we can get it accomplished for that 150 or less. Hopefully less, but that's something that we would normally present to you for in a budget in a given year, but having the ARPA money, it's an easy way to pay for it.
Yeah.
The vacuum truck drying bed, that one we're kind of at a standstill on. The county has given us permission to use their drying beds if we need to. We just don't have anywhere in the city to build ours. So that one's kind of, we're exploring some options as far as what we can do there. But for now, we have a stopgap at the county. The water department roof, opened that bid yesterday. So that'll be another one for work session next month to get approved. Low bid was $45,000 from Height Roofing, which was about what we expected. And then the street department roof will go out to advertisement on Monday of next week, and then we'll hopefully get a few more bids for that one. And then utility rate consultant, I think Elizabeth already touched on that. Salt dome design, I have a proposal from BB&A for the salt dome design, so that will be another one for work session next month to approve that proposal and get that project designed so we can bid it in the winter and start building it in the spring whenever we're done using salt. The garbage truck purchase, it is at Maryland Industrial Truck right now, getting final inspection, certification, and kind of just some cosmetic cleanup stuff done by them. We should have that truck by next week. And then armory floor.
Armory floor. That one, we're getting prices on that now. The armory floor, this is a complete refinishing. Typically, every year we do a kind of a rough sanding and recoat just for the polyurethane on it. After 10 of those, they recommend that you completely sand down to bare wood and start over. We're on, I believe, number 15 or 16 now. And we can't do it with POS funding or Community Parks and Playgrounds funding because we have to wait 20 years before we can apply for refunding for the same project. So that's why we're requesting it on ARPA funding. We hope to try and get that done in October before the season starts, so it'll be ready to go end of November.
And then as far as that's all the projects to date that you guys have approved via resolution. ones in green and the yellow are 3 more that staff would like to have you approve at next month's mayor and council for the recreation and maintenance building, ADA improvements at the dog park, and then smoke testing. Correct.
Is that a typo?
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
Marble
Little bit of a
floors,
difference.
Donnie. It's 2:30 over there.
Yeah, it's a little pricey. I don't think it's gonna cost that much.
Chandeliers. Brass faucets.
Gold plate.
Gold.
So, yeah, let's go through these. The street lighting with the retrofit dimmers, we learned that the new LED streetlights are too bright, so they come with a little remote that you can just dim on like your LED light strip at home, more or less. So we now know that if you want to continue to move forward with replacing the old LED lights on Water, I think Water's done, Broadway, College, Bowery, and Center. We used grants to do those initially when you were converting from the, what were those orange lights called? I can never.
High pressure sodium.
High pressure sodium to LED. There's grants available, but there's no grants when you convert LED to LED. And LEDs don't burn out, they just fade. So that's why they aren't putting out any light now, is they are beyond their useful life. So
How old are they?
That was,
10,
yeah, that was one of Rich's last projects, probably.
yeah, they were finishing that up when I started. So probably 11, because they were probably done the summer before I started. Is that a project you would like me to move forward, at least get an estimate for?
Yeah.
Please.
Okay. The downtown parking lot is coming along. We don't, you are under contract for 3 of those properties. There's a lot of unknowns beyond the acquisition costs right now. 200,000 would be funded through the remaining CDA proceeds from this building. Because of the site being the former site of Deluxe Cleaners, MDE has indicated that they would help us potentially with grant applications to
Remediate or whatever.
remediate. So that might help a little bit. But I think the St. Mike's parking lot project wasn't a big project, but all of that whole thing, demolition, everything for that cost $275,000. Acquisition was only $30,000 though. So I think the demolition, I don't remember, but the parking lot was built for less than $200,000 with the lights and the nice sidewalk and all of that, and the trees and the grass. So I would expect that you would want to do something similar to that. So what I would like to do on that is we're going to need your ARPA approval for some. No, okay, this is complicated. ARPA funds are going to have to fund something. We don't want ARPA funds to fund the acquisition because it gets us into all of these other federal standards. So the design and build of that is fine, but what we're going to need you to do is approve paying my salary or paying for something, salt, in lieu of the acquisition costs. And we will acquire it with city money. Right, Elaine?
Yes, but you don't want to to do that tenant relocation
Yeah.
cost.
So the buildings will actually be acquired with CDA and city money, and the design and
Construction.
construction.
Be through ARPA.
We will Hayden and I have discussed like the design part of it, and what we'd like to do, if we can get an engineering firm to agree to do it, is it would be a demo. They would spec out the demolition and the construction, which would include the asbestos abatement and every testing abatement and everything.
I spoke to BB&A today, and Matt said they'd be willing to.
Okay. So that would take workload off of us trying to do the design, or we can't do the design, but we could do this bid package for the demolition and asbestos abatement. I've done it a handful of times now, but
Also takes the liability off of us.
I don't want to do it. I don't have the time to do it. So it would be just easier. And then you're only mobilizing the same contractor once. You're not bringing it in a demolition company and then bringing someone else back into bid. So you're probably saving money in the long run. Okay. So probably in that we will be coming to you for design money on that in the next maybe 2 months. I think, Hayden, correct me if I'm wrong, but the College Gardens road repair is kind of not going to happen.
Yeah, probably not.
Would you like it to be removed?
Yeah. Can you talk about, it's because it's just a private property issue.
Oh.
It's not a city issue.
Right, it's not
Okay.
our road.
You want to talk about your GIS and timeline on that, Hayden?
Yeah, so this is one that we've been talking about for pretty much since we got the ARPA funding. I'd like to just keep expounding on what we already have from now until December of 2024 in terms of cutting BB&A loose and telling them just keep mapping everything. And then over time, once we have all the water lines done, bouncing to the sewer lines and kind of every utility we can incorporate, just so that we finally have all of our stuff on a GIS platform and it's digital and we're not rifling through 150-year-old maps trying to figure out where our water lines are. Timeline-wise, the only thing we need to work out is that I'd like to just stick with BB&A since they hold our platform for water, and just making sure that it's okay to stick with them sole sourcing professional services. And as soon as that's okay, we know for a fact that that's fine, then I would just ask you for approval to 100% cut BB&A loose and say, here's how much money I have to spend, let's go. So basically at the next mayor and council meeting, I would just ask for approval for the funding to start that project in earnest.
Well, should we move that up then to priority project?
I would
Okay.
like that, yes.
Yeah, I think we should.
So we can,
Everybody's
is everyone
agreeable.
agreeable for that being something to be approved at council meeting?
That is also something that we could, once we have that project done, we can incorporate it with the iWork that I now have in Public
Oh,
Works.
cool.
So.
Yeah, great. But
And
keep that map room.
Well, and that really is moving the city towards asset management where, Hayden can go in and say, he can go in and say, look, there's been 7 breaks on this line in the last 4 years. We need to just strategic plan to replace this instead of just keep fixing it and things like that.
Yeah, right now we're reactive as opposed to trying to get ahead of stuff.
Transite water line replacement.
We have a big portion of that done. We routed some water lines around that. So part of that is done, but part of it is still outstanding. So
And you're handling that just under that general water?
Yes,
So
yes.
that one can kind of be taken off.
yes. Same with hydrant replacement and repainting. We can pretty much handle that one under the general water.
Okay.
sewer smoke testing rain leader, that was one you guys had already talked about. I have a meeting with RK&K tomorrow they're giving me a proposal on smoke testing for the city. For those of you who don't know, the reason that the smoke testing is really important for us is that it gives us substantial proof to say your house is not separated from the sewer, your rain leaders are going into the sewer, here's the proof, you need to separate. Once we have that, then we can go and start actually separating houses and go to MDE with proof that says these houses were not separated, then we smoke tested after we told them to separate. Now you can see that they are in fact separated. We're doing our due diligence to get rainwater out of the sewers to prevent overflows.
And the city hasn't done this comprehensively yet, and it could be our sewer charges are billed on master meters that go into the county system. So whether it is sewage or rainwater going into our system,
It's
we are
volume,
paying to
yeah.
treat it.
Yep.
So any volume that we can reduce is going to reduce our costs.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's a good thing.
And it could
That's what you should use that as an incentive to the households
Yeah.
that have been said.
Yep.
Your sewage rates will go down if everybody does this.
And I mean, there's the potential for the city to do simple things like splash blocks, but then if you wanted to do 10 mini grants a year for people to install a rain garden or whatever, there's opportunities to incentivize separation a little bit as well.
People who offer like workshops on doing rain gardens, we should maybe promote that as when you're going around to the households, and maybe talk to somebody ahead of time. I can't remember who does that, but it'd be something to use. Yeah, because it would look nice too.
So that one, Hayden will have a quote
Yeah,
by
tomorrow.
next work session, so he'll be asking for approval of that, both to contract with RK&K, who are based out of Kaiser, and then,
So they are local.
but they will take care of managing like the follow-up to make sure that, or the communication to like let people know that they're connected and that they need to separate, and so that's not, so it's a cradle to grave thing, right?
That's
So
the plan.
So RK&K is going to
Yes.
handle that.
Yeah.
Dog park, Brian?
Dog park, just some ADA improvements. Gene and the guys have been working on some of that already, so they have some of it completed. There's still a little bit more that needs to be done for ADA accessibility, so they just wanted to try and improve that for the restrooms and the gate areas and stuff, access from the parking lot.
So people couldn't actually go, people in wheelchairs were not able to get into like
Yes,
that?
yeah.
Okay.
You just need $1,000 for that.
That should be it, yeah. Gene seems to think that'll take care of it.
Cool.
The maintenance building.
Oh, maintenance building, yes, yeah, that's not 230,000.
The correct amount is civil after.
Again, storage is a big issue with a lot of the stuff that we have. So they were just going to drop that right next to the existing building that we have there. Footprints, the right size, it'd just be I believe a 24 by 48 building. 20 by 40.
28 by 40.
28 by 40, yeah. And Hayden's already looked at the prices that we got, and everything looks good on the year end. So the packages seem to be good, and the guys are comfortable with, for the most part, getting things together and constructing it. And I think they're capable.
They're a capable bunch.
And that would include the concrete floor as well.
Is that a fall project?
I'll have to talk to Gene to see if they can squeeze that in. Thank you.
We'll go ahead and ask for, you want the task for the mayor and council approval though, so you can at least get it ordered, right?
Yes, yeah, the package.
Okay.
Bells Lane sidewalk and road.
It's a want more than a need. So it's just kind of.
It's not a high priority in terms of timing. It's something I really would like to see done. to-
Sidewalk is it's in bad shape.
I think,
And what it would turn into too is that part of Bell's Lane has 2 sidewalks, one on each side, and part of it I think would just be deleting one sidewalk and making the other one nicer to improve parking and just flowability on the street. So
Yeah, that would be good.
so we'll leave that one where it is, but not yet ask for approval.
Okay.
Lydia, it's probably appropriate now for you to talk about the new FAQs and some of the big changes that happened
Okay.
there, because that affects some of the other projects on the list.
So the FAQs are published after the final rule came out, so the most recent 350-page document, as clarification or changes to the final rule. So 2 big things is that under the revenue loss, they're saying now that it does not give rise to subrecipient relationships, given that there is no federal program or purpose to carry out in the case of revenue loss portion of the award. And then there's also a list, 13.15, and I can provide this to you as well. Uniform guidance requirements that apply to the revenue loss, which, as a reminder, we elected the standard allowance, so everything that we report will be reported under the revenue loss. That applies to the use and disposition of equipment, and it also means that we do not have to follow the federal procurement guidelines. We can follow our own now.
Which is a big deal for certain things like design or any professional service. Because our procurement says we can sole source that, and we have relationships with engineering firms and whatever where we know we're getting a fair price. So,
So I guess to add, we still have to follow Maryland local and then typical procedure that we do. But in terms of procurement, program income, equipment use and disposition, and subrecipient monitoring, we are, from our understanding, according to the webinar on Tuesday and the FAQ published on July 27th, free of the obligation.
so what that means is if you decide to give money to other organizations, you don't have to follow that long list. It's a list that you feel comfortable with in terms of accountability to your taxpayers. It's a long list of requirements, including tax returns and audits and all of that. It now is a list that you feel comfortable with.
It's up to us then to develop our own list for monitoring.
Yes. And accountability, yes. So, if it's okay, we'll just continue through these lists. The facade grant program, outdoor upgrades. At a work session several months ago, because of the subrecipient monitoring, I recommended that we don't do that, and you agreed to that. So I didn't know if you were okay with leaving that off, taking that off the list, or if you'd like to see the city do something like that. The county has big programs available right now. The state has some money available right now as well. And we continue to get our facade grant, $50,000 money that we're putting into the businesses. So,
People don't even take advantage of that. do they?
no,
Yeah.
my recommendation would be to take that off.
Okay.
Anything towards water and sewer would be my preference.
mine too.
Speaking of which,
That raw water transmission main project, you did acquire the one parcel needed for that line to go across. think we're to a point that we're gonna ask for your approval, but maybe you would like to see it moved up to the yellow.
Yeah, something worth exploring
Okay.
at least.
All right.
In that same vein, I don't see it listed, but would also be just the water tank itself if we decide to put a tank on that property. That might be a project worth writing in.
Okay.
In the orange.
Yeah.
Any idea how many gallons?
4 million, I think. Yeah, it would be a big one. So
Or could be a series of,
it could be two smaller tanks. Footprint wise and cost wise, one big tank would be best, but it would be anywhere from 2 million to 4 million, just depending on how much.
do you want to like a 2-day supply, 2 to 4 day
Yeah.
supply of,
Yeah,
Raw
2 million would be like a day and 1.75 days worth of water. So
But that would be
I
raw
would-
water.
Huh?
That would still be raw water.
Yes.
right, still be
Yeah.
well above the filtration?
Yeah, but if we get cut off from the wells and the dam for some reason, if there's a break in the line, then we still have that raw water there to treat, and then which would give us basically 4 days of water.
Because there's that reservoir.
Yes. Well, we would probably get away from the reservoir, but it would
So
be
the tank would be instead of,
yes, but we would have basically 4 days of water because we would have 2 in the geodesic domes
Right.
of treated water,
2 to
and we would
3.
have 2 in the tank of raw water to replenish. But I would recommend a minimum of 2 million, ideally a lot bigger though. So
So you said 4 million will give us a 4-day supply?
basically,
Okay. Enough time to get it
Yeah.
fixed, whatever's,
Yeah.
hopefully.
which would and
so basically, you want to do away with the reservoir because of problems with clogging and all
yeah,
that.
clogging and upkeep and leakage and
Duckweed.
yeah, it's a headache.
Okay.
And the tank is just easier to control. We know exactly what we're getting.
It's underground.
It would be above ground.
It would be.
But it would be set back on the property. So it would be visible from Route 40, but it would be set back a distance. So
Paint it green to match the,
yeah.
Plant some pollinators.
What would it, I mean, you own like a concrete
Yeah,
pad?
basically just a big, think of if you took a soda can and sat it on top of a coaster.
That's what it,
Good analogy.
we should
What do you
paint
think
it
that
like a
costs?
Coke can or something.
I haven't even spent it out yet.
I just think mountain water makes a difference.
But if we did a 4 million gallon tank, it would effectively give us 6 days of water between the domes
The domes.
and the tank.
Okay, good. So that's your recommendation?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a good.
A minimum of 2, a maximum of 4.
All right. Good, we'll get on that.
We did reline it in 2013. The longevity of that, we're not so sure of at this point, but it doesn't seem like a big deal to have your raw water leaking back into the groundwater, but the big deal is that we spent money pumping it over the hill.
Right,
Right.
yes, yeah.
Okay.
So a tank would eliminate that too.
All right.
Potential for
Leaking.
loss
Right.
and evaporation, yeah.
Yeah.
Be pumping a little less.
So I'll get back with Hayden on an estimate
Okay.
for the
Yeah, because
list.
I don't have an estimate at this time. So.
Your utility replacement is probably okay to just hang out there right now in Meadow Road.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. We have a small place. No, I told you, Lydia, I can't see anymore.
You said just make theirs big.
CSO elimination project.
Yeah,
matching
so we
funds.
have matching funds in there, but that's an optimistic number based on that conversation we had earlier in the meeting. So I don't know what to do right there.
Grease traps.
How's your thought on that grease trap program coming, Hayden?
It's just kind of a
Lower priority.
yeah.
Really? Because it seems like it would make a difference.
I think it will. It's just it's workload for Hayden is
It's on the back burner right now.
is the limiting factor.
It's something that I think would be really nice for the city, but it's not a need. Like we're not
I'm not getting a lot of those fat,
no
what do they call them?
fatbergs.
Fatbergs.
We haven't been inundated with grease clogs, so it's not the. And with every new, it is in our city ordinance that for every new restaurant they have to install a grease trap. I think most restaurants are grandfathered in, but for new restaurants they have to put them in. So it's just not a serious enough issue at this time that I would say we need to really pursue it. I definitely think it's worth keeping on the list.
Okay.
However, I don't think it's a make or break thing for us. So
Thanks, Hayden. The next one's premium pay. I can't remember, did we ask them to nix that, or did we just not talk about it anymore?
It was, yeah, we didn't talk about it.
Okay, so that was just a potential idea of premium pay for employees. I think due to other things, it's our recommendation that be nixed. Right,
Correct.
okay. The transit hub is not happening at this time. I think I've talked about that previously, but there was some outstanding grant funds that we thought could be used for construction, but the person at the county that was leading this up left. There wasn't a lot of support from any of the involved parties,
Yeah.
and they ended up pulling the remaining grant funds and told us we could reapply if we wanted construction funding, and no one was willing to champion the project, and the city really.
The city was just a partner. I mean,
Yeah,
it was
we were-
FSU that was.
It was FSU and the county that were the ones to benefit, so.
Let it go.
That's too bad. I think it
What a good idea.
gotta have somebody who's heading that up.
The Glendenning drainage work, we're kind of just taking care of in-house, aren't
Yeah.
we?
Yeah, that was mostly centered around. Most of it will get taken care of whenever we do the tar and chip, and then we're gonna pretty much handle all that in house. So
Okay.
costs for that we can absorb in house.
We have police retention bonus on there, but no money.
Yes, no amount was indicated for that.
It was subject to the, that,
Leops.
No.
oh, that's right, that was, yeah.
I think we should at least wait till that study's
Yeah.
done before we talk
Okay.
about it again.
So just leave it on, and leave it blank. Brian has a whole list of park and rec upgrades he'd like to see, but he's also got a lot of support from the county on POS for Glendenning, and you're doing some community park and playground stuff too. So, how much did you two submit for Glendenning improvements to the county for POS?
69,000.
I have to look to see.
I think it was 69,000.
Yeah, because there's like 4 applications. The number's running up.
So,
So is it fields mainly, and then that building then?
Yeah.
Yeah, the building and
Possible some septic work and some fencing and some
yeah,
road
connecting
work.
to the sewer from the lower building there at Sowers Field, and then just basically renovating that building at Glendenning, and maybe some fencing work at the lower field.
The bathroom and concession stand, is that the one?
Yeah, the old one down there by Sowers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it could use some updating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd recommend leaving that higher number there though, because there will probably be some cost to addressing the parking situation up at Field 8,
yeah.
Cougar Field.
Yeah.
Can we build a parking garage for that kind of?
Five stories.
Millings at. Do we ever hear that back in there?
Maybe just too
loud.
loud.
If we do, I want to level some of it off.
Liz, do you know that?
What?
Up there where we dump our millings at, right below Cougar
Sliver.
Field. Huh?
A sliver.
Where the wooded area there,
A sliver.
just a slither.
Well, there's the spot where we used to dump that guess wasn't well received, so we blocked it off, and now it's kind of grown up, but could get a couple spaces out of that. So
You seen how they park up there?
I was one of them.
I need someone to, with a drone
Organized
to go
parking
up
would help
and take
a
a
lot.
picture.
A lot.
Yeah.
That's like what I need someone to
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
So
Even if
we
they
can
just
count
paint
cars.
lines on the gravel.
Like, so you need somebody to take pictures
During
when,
Yes.
okay,
If they
okay.
had some parking volunteers like they do at the amusement parks,
Yes,
they'd
yeah.
be great. But
Yeah.
Tough thing is that you just have 150 kids and their families rolling in staggered at the beginning, and then so.
We did hire a kid locally who does drone
Okay.
images to take pictures of the parks a year or so ago. So if it's something you're actually considering, we could get in contact with him.
It'd be worth a
Yeah,
couple $100
yeah.
I mean, they,
to
I think
know
they,
what
they,
we're trying to accommodate.
if I were, I mean, because Cameron played up there too when he was younger, and I mean, that field up there, it was probably a good 6 rows of cars,
Yeah.
you know, that filled that field up. You know, so that's going to be hard to replace.
Yeah. I've been scouting around up there looking for potential places, but it's going to be hard to replace that volume. So,
Well, like you say, too, the bad thing is if you don't have them marked off,
yeah.
you got cars taking 12 feet.
I mean, they'll have to park all the way down by the lower pond, you know, I mean, and then walk up in. That's
well, with AYSO down there, that's gonna be
There's
tough.
not that many parking spots in the parking lot
Oh,
of Frost.
Frost didn't have a big.
I looked, and it
Mhm.
might be only like 2 dozen spots in the parking lot. You have the loop and stuff, but
I don't know. It's not very wide, and I think they like having the tree buffer there for the kids.
And our fence line is right at the property.
Yeah.
oh, okay.
Property line.
Back to parking garage.
There's
Do you
not
have
that many
spots?
spaces on Rhinex, or what, a dozen?
Yeah. Um,
Could always widen the street.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
there is room there to widen
Yeah.
it and have like angled parking, but still that doesn't give you enough.
start parking them on the soccer field. For sure.
Shuttle bus.
Encourage people to carpool.
that's going to go in one ear, not the other.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, there are plenty of Pee Wee football fields in the area that have parking issues. And you think of Crescent Town Park. There's like one road in, and they still play the same. They play Pee Wee football games on it. And if people have to walk, they'll walk. So,
Yeah.
but we'll figure something.
Just get
to
there
help.
early.
the director or president of the Cougars did
Yeah.
reach out to Brian.
Had some concerns.
Offered to sit in on meetings or whatever as we explore, so that's helpful. Okay.
I have to meet a contractor. Am I good to go, or do you want me to explain any before I leave?
Nope, you're okay.
Thanks, Hayden.
Yep,
Hey,
thank
thank you, buddy.
Off to go. Look at painting stuff.
Thanks, Dave. We're boring Dolly over here.
My dog decided it wanted to get up at 3 this morning.
Oh, my.
You need to give it doggy hours.
I'd probably recommend leaving the North Grand CSO there. The accessible fishing pier, we did get approved for the POS money through Garrett County, so that's a big
Nice.
win.
Nice.
Okay.
So
How much?
Was it
75 is the number that Hayden gave me.
I
So
think
they're probably
that's it.
paying 90%,
Yeah, so we'll have a
68,000.
That's great.
Yeah,
good.
sweet.
So that 7,000
So can
that's
we-
listed would be the match.
Can we
Yeah.
can move that one up there?
Yeah, it would probably be good. We don't need it for approval yet because Hayden still has to do more stuff. I guess he submitted to Garrett County, but then you have to submit a state application. Is that how that works?
If it's POS, that would be sufficient. I mean, that's only gonna take 30 minutes to fill out.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right, so we'll move that up to yellow if that works for
Sure.
everyone.
Yep.
Are there any, so like, there isn't like a placeholder in here for more CSO. I don't know if we should just change that, just do like a general CSO one and do a placeholder.
Instead of just North Grand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just kind of combine that CSO. and make it a placeholder. I don't know what that placeholder should be, but
CSO project.
and we are kind of have added and crossed out, so our running total is not right at this point.
She did.
Question mark.
I can get you guys an updated total
Okay,
tomorrow.
yeah, because I mean, that we knocked some stuff off.
Yeah.
So, and Lydia has, I did show you at a previous meeting, we do have the ARPA page on our website. Go to your government and ARPA relief. There's kind of an overview, and then there's details on approved projects, there's details on completed projects, and then under information, this priority list is on there.
Cool.
So that'll be updated as well, so the public can keep tabs on it. Are there other things that you would like to see on this list?
Ron, the softball fields, like the girls' softball field, are we putting new material on that?
That's what we're talking about. That's one of the things.
That's one of the things. What about the men's?
Men's field.
Yeah.
We hadn't thought of doing anything with that yet,
Yeah.
but we certainly can.
So I know there's drainage issues in there with that.
Yeah, actually, what we'd like to do is just replace that whole infield,
Yeah.
regular infield mix.
Right. Because I think the leak, well, did the Frostburg leak full? Is that?
They didn't play this past year, so
Right.
that would be my assumption. But with the sewer, the stormwater drainage that Hayden's talking about and the sewer connection, he wanted to address the stormwater because there's a storm sewer around that section too, and behind the backstop. So that might be something that could be taken care of as far as grading that infield and then just adding infield mix.
Yeah.
Did anybody play baseball on the Armory Field, the big one, this year?
There was some
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Just, the infield just looked a mess. I just.
hot stove occasional
Okay.
usage.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
they weren't, could we plant grass there, make a bigger soccer field for,
For JCP, yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so, I don't know what the total is now. Going down to the blue, the Challenger Center, that was agreed upon at a work session somewhat recently to just put that on hold and see if,
Other funding came.
yeah.
Right.
And then I would like you to commit to the Coal Miner Memorial Park because that's a big project and that the 50,000 would just pay for more of like the Parks and Rec type improvements, the trail resurfacing, the benches, garbage cans, things like that. But the county has ARC money and county money is the big part of why that project is going to happen now. So if that's okay with you, we move that matching money up to green. Okay. And then, as you know, the fire department has made a request for the $750,000 for their ladder truck. As Lydia told you, the subrecipient rules have changed, so if you wanted to consider that now, if you wanted to consider that later, it's just looking for some guidance on that.
It appears that they haven't been straightforward with us
Yeah.
on a lot of things. You know, and now they're pressuring us to give them an answer so they can get an audit that they should have had done 10 years ago based on some of the information I see in this letter. I mean, they did give us their budget this year, but that's the first time we've seen the budget since I've been on council. And
I
I'd
mean,
like-
I still think, I mean, it's firefighting, and it's still a priority for the city. You know, it's still something that we need to contribute
Well, it is, but
Right.
But a brand new, not
a brand new truck
isn't
is,
it?
talking to several people, is it a want or a need at this point? And we know that this, whatever the rating thing is not in place anymore. I have a person that lives in the hotel there that was like a national fire person for years, and he said that the rating on a lot of these trucks is not based on the years, it's based on, you know, the use and stuff. So you have to take that into consideration. So, I mean, everybody wants a brand new truck, but I think we need a little bit more information from them. You know,
It seems like their need is more along the lines of personnel rather
Uh-huh.
than equipment. But that's not something we can provide.
I mean, I don't know, 750,000 is the right, number,
Mhm.
but I think there's a number.
Well,
there.
I think
yeah, I agree with you there. I'm not saying
that
no.
we had talked about 500,000,
500,000.
and they just got a $500,000 grant from the federal government, if I'm
Right.
correct.
State.
State, yeah. And if we went with the 500,000, I think at the last meeting that I went to, they had 160,000 in their truck fund.
Okay.
So that would get them,
Gets them pretty close.
yeah, if they could work with us and cut back on some things that maybe weren't necessary, they could probably get that truck down, because I think they gave an estimate of 1.7.
1.6, 1.7.
Yeah, and
And
again, I think that was just an estimate by them also, but.
If they, I mean, if they've got that money in their fund, why didn't that show up on the information they've given us in the past?
I don't know if what they had in that fund was on their budget or not.
That's what I'm saying. I
I
mean,
don't
the
remember
information
seeing that.
they're giving us is very, very vague. And, I mean, even just by going by this letter that's going out, there's $15,000 missing just in that year of what they received and what they claim they spent. I mean, I mean, maybe they put that in the truck fund, and that's great, but
But it's incomplete information,
Right.
which leads
Yeah.
me to, I think we should get an outside auditor because we can't trust them.
But why do we have to pay for the audit? That's the thing.
No.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
Aren't they already prepared to have an audit done?
No, they wanted us to, they didn't want to pay for an auditor until we
we
guaranteed
guaranteed
them
we're
money.
paying them.
Oh,
It seems
okay.
like it's backwards.
Well, I mean, I think we're going to end up giving them something,
Mhm.
but what that number is. But I think, we need to take a hard look at,
Yeah.
at an audit.
So is that consensus? Everybody wants a better accounting?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so do you want me to communicate that
We
To
will
be-
give them money, but we want them first to, I think he said that they wanted us to give them at least a certain amount of money before they would commit to actually paying for an auditor, but I can't remember what that was.
I think it was just indicated that if the amount of money that they were getting was gonna be less than the audit, then
Yeah,
it wouldn't
it
be.
wouldn't
Or,
It
or
wasn't
even a
worth
break
it.
fee.
Which is understandable, sure.
which I'm sure we're going to get more than
Yeah, 30,000 or whatever it
Right,
would be.
yeah, it's, like I said, firefighting's it's still a priority,
Right.
Mhm, yeah.
It's still something that we need to help them out with, but I think, once we can look at an audit,
Then we can make a decision that makes sense.
Okay, very good.
Well, and I think also that if this all comes about, certainly that fire truck is worth some pretty good money,
sure.
even though it's 20 years old.
It's,
So you
yeah,
can run that into it too, and
Right,
So that gets them a lot closer.
Yeah.
To,
Yeah.
So if they, the state gave them 500, if we're around that number, and then they have some put back, and they sell the truck, I mean, that gets them pretty close to where they need to be.
and I know they take pretty good care of their stuff but the guys that are taking care of it are all the older guys who eventually aren't gonna be there.
Yeah.
Like Bill Price and Harry Ford, these guys are 70 years old now. You know, how long are they gonna be able to do what they do with the truck?
Okay.
We need younger blood.
Okay. Anything else? Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
know that was not as fun
Thank you,
as.
Lydia.
Not bad. 115, not bad. There's a lot on this list, folks. I think we did
Yeah.
good today. We did real good. Thank you all for your time today as well.